My name is Eric. I'm 24 now, but this happened when I was 19, back in 2020. I was working a late shift at a warehouse in rural Pennsylvania. It was a job I took between semesters of college, mostly moving boxes and loading trucks. We clocked out at midnight, but because of overtime and cleanup, I often didn't leave until 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. My commute home was 40 minutes of winding, two-lane back roads that cut through dense woods. No houses, no streetlights, just asphalt surrounded by trees. In the daytime it was scenic, but at night it was pitch black. The kind of black where your high beams seem to hit a wall and everything beyond feels swallowed. I had driven it so many times I didn't even think about it. Until one night. It was late October. The air was cold, and there was a low mist sitting over the road like a thin blanket. My phone said 12:47 when I pulled out of the warehouse lot. I rolled the windows down a crack, turned the radio to a talk station just to have voices in the car, and started the long drive. For the first 20 minutes, nothing unusual happened. The road was empty, my tires hummed, and the mist was thick enough that I was only doing about 45. Then my headlights caught something on the edge of the road. At first it looked like a deer, a shape moving from the right side of the woods toward the shoulder. I slowed down immediately, but as it stepped into the light, I realized it was a man. Thin, hunched, wearing dark, ragged clothes. His head hung forward like he was staring at the ground. He crossed slowly, limping, then disappeared into the trees on the other side. Out there, you don't see people on foot at night. My first thought was maybe a hunter or someone whose car broke down. I slowed almost to a stop, thinking about calling out to him. But the way he moved didn't feel right. There was no flashlight, no backpack, no reaction to my car, just that slow limp into the woods. I drove on. For the next few miles, I couldn't stop glancing in the mirrors. The road behind me stayed empty. No cars, no headlights. Eventually, I convinced myself it was nothing and turned the radio up. 10 minutes later, my stomach dropped. Up ahead, standing just off the shoulder, was the same man. Same clothes, same hunched stance. This time his head was up. The high beams lit his face, and what I saw made my skin crawl. His face looked gray, like all the color had drained out. His eyes caught the light like an animal's. And his mouth hung open wider than it should, as if frozen mid-scream or mid-grin. I swerved slightly to give him space and pressed harder on the gas. My heart was pounding, but I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a different person. Maybe I was exaggerating what I saw in the mist. Another mile went by, then another. The road curved left, then straightened, and there he was again. This time he was in the middle of the lane. I slammed on the brakes. My tires screeched and the car skidded to a stop. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stood there, his head tilted slightly, mouth hanging open, staring at me. The mist swirled around him. I gripped the wheel, trying to decide what to do. Turning around meant driving back through miles of empty woods. Passing him meant risking whatever he was planning. I inched the car forward. He stayed still. I pressed the gas a little harder. Right as my bumper would have reached him, my headlights flickered off for a split second. The entire road went black. My heart stopped. When the lights came back on, the man was gone. I slammed the accelerator and didn't let off for miles. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. Every few seconds I checked the rearview mirror, expecting to see him running after me. But there was nothing. Just empty road and mist. When I finally reached the outskirts of town, I pulled into a gas station and sat in the car for 10 minutes, trying to calm down. I told myself maybe I'd hallucinated him, maybe I was overtired. By the time I got home, I had almost convinced myself it was all in my head. 2 nights later, it happened again. I had worked another overtime shift. It was about 1 a.m. when I was halfway down the same stretch of road. This time there was no mist, just clear, cold night. I kept scanning the shoulders nervously. Nothing. No one. Finally, I started to relax. Then, in my rearview mirror, I saw movement in the back seat. It was only for a second, like a flash. But I know what I saw. Pale gray face, sunken eyes reflecting light that wasn't there, mouth hanging open in that same impossible way, sitting directly behind me. I swerved, slammed on the brakes, and jumped out of the car, leaving the door open. The interior light clicked on. The back seat was empty. I circled the car twice. Nothing. The doors had been locked while I was driving. I drove the rest of the way home with every window up, radio off, heart racing. I haven't taken that back road since. I don't know who or what I saw out there. Some people I've told think it was a drifter, or a trick of headlights and mist, or just exhaustion. But I know what I saw. And I know the feeling of looking into my own rearview mirror and seeing someone, or something, staring back. My name is Alex. I'm 27 now, but this happened when I was 18, in the winter of 2016. Back then, I lived in a small rural town in Montana. There wasn't much to do there. On weekends, most kids would either hang out at the one diner that stayed open late or just drive around the back roads to pass the time. I had just gotten my license, and I loved night driving more than anything. I can't really explain why. There was something about the emptiness of the roads, the silence of the snow-covered fields, and the way the high beams stretched into the dark that gave me a strange sense of peace. That peace disappeared one night in December, and I still think about it every time I see hazard lights flashing on the side of the road. It was a Friday, close to Christmas break. I remember that because the air had that dry bite of deep winter, and the snowbanks along the road were already stacked higher than the hood of my car. Around 11:30, I left a friend's house to head home. The drive was about 40 minutes, but because of how empty the county was, you rarely saw another car once you left town. Just narrow stretches of blacktop surrounded by woods and farmland. I was about halfway home when I noticed something strange up ahead. At first, it looked like the shape of a deer caught in my headlights. I slowed down, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't an animal. It was a car. The car was parked diagonally across both lanes, completely blocking the road. Its hazard lights were blinking in the dark, slow and weak. The driver's side door was hanging open. I stopped about 30 feet back, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. At that hour, on that road, it was almost impossible to run into another driver, let alone one who would leave their car blocking both lanes. I cracked my window and called out, "Hello? Do you need help?" My voice echoed across the fields. The car looked old, maybe an early 2000s sedan. The paint was faded, and snow had piled up around the tires like it had been there for a while. I leaned forward, squinting, and noticed tracks in the snow leading from the car into the woods. Something about it made me uneasy. I didn't see any movement, no flashlight, no signs of someone waving for help, just the hazards blinking steadily in the dark. I put my car back into drive and eased forward, deciding I'd just go around it. As I passed the open door, my headlights lit up something on the inside of it. There was writing sprayed across the metal in thick black paint. One word, crooked and rushed, but big enough to read clearly. Run. I floored the gas and didn't look back. For the next 10 minutes, all I could hear was my own breathing and the sound of the tires on the snow. My hands were clamped to the wheels so tight they hurt. I tried telling myself it was some kind of prank, maybe kids messing with people, but something about it didn't feel like a joke. And then I saw headlights appear in my rearview mirror. They came out of nowhere. One second, the road behind me was pitch black. The next, there was a pair of lights in the distance, closing fast. At first, I told myself it was just another driver, but the way they caught up to me so quickly made my chest tighten. Within a minute, they were right on my bumper. I could see the outline of the grille, the flicker of their high beams flashing once, then again. I tapped my brakes lightly, hoping they'd back off. They didn't. Instead, they moved closer, almost close enough to touch my bumper. I gritted my teeth and pressed harder on the gas. My little sedan wasn't built for speed, but I pushed it past 60, then 70. The road was narrow, icy, and twisting, but I didn't care. I just wanted distance between me and them. The car behind me matched every move, every turn, every acceleration. They stayed glued to me. I reached a long stretch of road that dipped into a shallow valley. I knew it well, and I knew there was a side road about a mile ahead. I decided to take it, hoping to lose whoever was following me. As soon as I made the sharp right, their headlights disappeared from my mirror. Relief washed over me for about 5 seconds, until I glanced up again. The headlights were back, closer than ever. I don't think I've ever felt fear like that. I slammed my foot on the gas, praying the car wouldn't spin out. My eyes darted between the mirror and the road, and then, in the middle of one long straightaway, their lights just flicked off. Gone. One second, they were blinding me. The next, the road was black. I drove another mile, my pulse hammering in my throat, waiting for them to reappear. They never did. I finally let off the gas, slowing down. My chest ached from holding my breath. That's when I saw something up ahead, glowing faintly in the beams of my headlights. Another car. It was parked diagonally across the road, hazards blinking, driver's side door hanging open. It was the exact same car I had seen before, the exact same words sprayed inside the door. Run. I nearly spun out, swerving around it. I didn't even care if I went into a ditch at that point. I just wanted out. The rest of the drive home was a blur. I don't remember how I kept the car straight, or how I even unlocked the front door when I got home. I just remember sitting in my driveway, staring into the dark woods around my house, waiting for headlights to come rolling up. The next morning, I told my dad. I expected him to laugh or tell me I'd imagined it. Instead, his face went pale. He told me that back in the 90s, people in our county whispered about a group that would set up road traps at night. They'd park a car across the lanes to make you stop. When you got out to help, they'd come out of the trees. Sometimes they'd rob you, sometimes it was worse. The stories faded over the years, and most people thought it was just an urban legend. But my dad told me he had seen it once himself when he was younger. He said the only reason he made it out was because he didn't stop. I'll never forget the way he looked at me when he said that. To this day, I don't drive those roads at night. In fact, I don't drive back roads at night at all. Because sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had stopped. I wonder if the people who vanished from our county over the years had seen the same word I did. And I wonder if the only reason I'm here telling this story is because when I saw it, I listened.